My sister demanded she gets to walk down the aisle at my wedding first. So I said yes, but never clarified what I was actually saying yes to. My older sister is 32, and her biggest dream in life is to have the perfect wedding. Unfortunately, her rancid personality means she's never even had a boyfriend, much less a wedding. Jessica's the type of person to steal a homeless man's change while he's sleeping. That's actually why her first and only talking stage ended. For the last 12 years, she's blamed everybody but herself for her relationship struggles. And the most recent example of this is when I started dating my boyfriend, Alec. I kept our relationship quiet for 6 months because I knew what would happen. Sure enough, when Jessica found out by snooping through my phone, she ran to our parents, crying that I was copying her by trying to get married before her. Our parents backed her up. They had the audacity to tell me to break up with Alec. I didn't listen, and that's when Jessica started stalking us. When Alec and I went to our favorite Italian place, there she was at the next table. Things escalated about 13 months in when she saw how serious we were getting. She created a fake dating profile using my photos. She sent him screenshots of it, pretending a concerned friend had found them. When he didn't respond, Jessica texted him saying she was here if he needed anything, and I mean anything at all, to support him through his breakup with me. He showed me her text and we laughed about it. He blocked her number, but unfortunately, that was far from the end. My parents contacted me a few days later, screaming down the phone about why my boyfriend was isolating me from my sister. According to them, Alec was controlling and I needed to leave him right away. I didn't, and that's what came back to bite me. About a year and a half into dating, I announced mine and Alex's engagement at family dinner. Everyone except Jessica and my parents celebrated. My parents' faces turned sour. They looked at Jessica, nodded, and on cue she stood up, clutching her chest, and collapsed on the floor. My parents stopped all celebrations immediately, got everyone out of the house to make sure me and Alec didn't get any spotlight, then rushed Jessica to the hospital. Of course, Jessica made a miraculous recovery on the drive. Me and Alec were already thinking of just not inviting her. But our breaking point came during our venue meeting. Alec and I were going over details when my sister and my parents came in uninvited. Jessica was crying, and they all had this pleading look on their faces. Jessica has cancer. My world stopped. Doctors are giving me 13 months a year max. She then began sobbing harder. My only dying wish is to walk the aisle in a wedding dress. Can I walk first at your wedding? My parents immediately backed her up. It's such a small thing to ask. She's your older sister. She deserves this before she dies. I wanted to say yes. She was dying. But the thing was, it all felt so strange. They talked about nothing but her walking down the aisle. Even when I asked what kind of cancer they had, Jessica and Mom gave different answers. And so, I told them yes, but to give me a few days to confirm with Alex's family. I used those few nights to investigate. You see, Jessica didn't know that. Alex's dad was a doctor, and once we told him our suspicion, he volunteered to dig a little through some medical contacts. Jessica had no idea it was happening. Within days, he had proof. Jessica never had any oncologist appointments, no chemo prescriptions, no medical records. She didn't have cancer. At first, we wanted to call her and tear her a new one, but instead, we came up with a better idea. Let's give her exactly what she wants. We went back to my parents that night and told them yes. Jessica's eyes lit up immediately. She hugged me so hard, and my parents told me they were proud to have raised such a selfless sister, and I smiled back because I knew exactly what we were going to do. You see, Jessica loved luxury, and my parents had money to spare, meaning at every decision point, me and Alec acted like we had budget limitations. Knowing Jessica would insist my parents upgrade everything. This tactic worked for the photographer, flowers, even the venue itself, and more. We got the best everything for free, and the absolute best part of it all was watching my parents and Jessica put themselves through hell to keep up with their cancer story. They spent money on ridiculously expensive medication so Jessica could take it in front of me, only to run to the bathroom and spit it out. Jessica started starving herself to lose weight, and she even went as far as shaving parts of her hair every so often to make it look real. I acted concerned every single time. Everything culminated on my wedding day. Jessica arrived in a dress that cost twice what mine did. She had a professional wig and makeup done, a photographer, and a bouquet, bigger than mine. When I saw her, we shared a huge hug. Our parents arrived minutes after, my mom dressed in red, and my dad wearing his nicest suit. They hugged me crying, telling me they'd remember this forever. I told them the same. We started heading inside, and it's while going past security that it happened. I went in just fine, but the two 1111 security guards I'd hired stopped Jessica and my parents. You're not allowed past this point. Full story on channel linked below. Jessica's face went from triumphant to confused in seconds. She looked at the guards, then at me, then back guards. What do you mean we're not allowed? I'm the bride's sister. The guard checked his tablet. Your names aren't on the guest list. I'm sorry, but we have strict instructions. My mother's voice shot up 3 octaves. This is ridiculous. We're her parents. She grabbed the guard's arm, which he gently but firmly removed. Jessica started hyperventilating. Her hands hands flew to her chest and she stumbled backward into Dad. My medication, I need. She collapsed onto the pavement, her wig sliding slightly to reveal stubble underneath. Guests arriving for the ceremony stopped to stare. An elderly couple from Alex's side gasped as Jessica writhed on the ground. My father dropped to his knees beside her. Someone called 908. She's having a reaction. The stress. Jessica gasped between theatrical breaths. My oncologist said no stress. She clutched at my dress from the ground. Please. I just wanted to see you married before I mom whipped around to face the growing crowd. Look what she's doing. To her dying sister. Her red dress caught the sunlight as she pointed at me. The price tag, still attached, fluttered in the breeze, denying her final wish. More guests gathered. I recognized Alex's great Aunt Martha clutching her pearls. Jessica's performance intensified. She started making choking sounds while Dad fanned her with his jacket. The venue manager appeared holding a folder. Is there a problem here? Yes, Mom screamed. My daughter is dying of cancer, and they won't let her into her sister's wedding. The manager's face remained neutral. He opened his folder and pulled out a contract. Ma'am, I have documentation here showing that Jessica, along with you and your husband, were explicitly excluded from this event. In fact, he flipped a page. There's a signature here from last week. Someone claiming to be Jessica trying to change catering order. Jessica's gasping paused for half a second before resuming with renewed vigor. That's forged, Dad shouted. We'll sue this whole establishment. I backed away from the scene, my hands shaking. Crowd was growing larger. Someone was filming with their phone. Jessica's eyes tracked camera and her convulsions became more dramatic. How could you? An older woman I didn't recognize approached me. Your own sister. I turned and walked quickly toward the garden area beside the venue. My heels clicked against the stone path as Jessica's wails echoed behind me. I could hear Mom telling anyone who would listen about my cruelty, about Jessica's brave battle, about her dying wish. I found myself behind the rose bushes, gripping the thorns without realizing it. Small cuts formed on my palms. My breathing came in short bursts. Everything we'd planned was falling apart. The security was supposed to handle this quietly. Jessica wasn't supposed to. Hey! Alec appeared around the corner. His face was flushed. I heard the commotion. Are you okay? I showed him my bleeding hands. He pulled out his handkerchief and wrapped them gently. She's really doing this. She's really destroying our wedding. There's more, he said quietly. My mom just got a call this morning. Jessica called her at 11:05 a.m., claiming you've been having an affair with your coworker. She said she felt Mom deserved to know before the wedding. My stomach dropped. What? Mom didn't believe her, but Jessica sent photos, obviously fake ones, but still. He held my wrapped hands. She's been planning this. Jessica's screams intensified from the parking lot. We could hear sirens in the distance. We should get inside, Alex said. The ceremony. There she is, a voice shouted. 3 women I'd never seen before rounded the corner. They wore matching pink shirts with ribbons pinned to them. There's the heartless bride. Jessica's in our cancer support group, one of them said, her voice dripping with disgust. How dare you ban her from your wedding? She showed us the emails you sent her, calling her a faker. I'd never sent Jessica any emails. I didn't. Save it. The tallest woman pulled out her phone. Everyone needs to see what kind of person you really are. She started live streaming. This is the bride who banned her dying sister from her wedding. Look at her hiding in the garden while Jessica collapses in the parking lot. Alex stepped between us. This is private property. You need to leave. Or what? You'll have security throw us out too. The woman kept filming. Jessica told us all about you. How you isolated her sister, turned her against her own family. The sirens grew louder. Through the garden gate, I could see an ambulance pulling into the parking lot. The EMTs rushed to Jessica, who was now surrounded by at least 35 people. We need to get to the bridal suite, Alex said, guiding me away from the women. We hurried through the side entrance. The hallway was filled with confused guests. Alex's cousin stopped us. What's happening out there? Someone said. Your sister collapsed. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed, then buzzed again and again. I looked at the screen. Notifications were pouring in. Someone had tagged me in a video. The title read, Bide Band's Dying Sister from Wedding. Heartless. It already had over a 100 read views. As I watched, the number climbed. We reached the bridal suite where my bridesmaids were waiting. Their faces were pale. We saw what's happening, Vicky said. Should we delay the ceremony? No, I said firmly. We're not delaying anything. Victoria was at the window. The ambulance is still there. Jessica's on a stretcher, but she's sitting up and talking to reporters. Reporters? I rushed to the window. Sure enough, a local news van had arrived. Jessica was propped up on the stretcher, oxygen mask dangling around her neck as she spoke animatedly to a woman with a microphone. Lock the door, I said. Nobody else comes in here. McJonathan, my maid of honor, was already moving furniture in front of the door. I'm recording everything on my phone, she said, just in case we need evidence later. Through the door, we could hear footsteps and voices in the hallway. Someone knocked. Hello, we're friends of Jessica's from her support group. We just want to talk. We stayed silent. The knocking became pounding. We know you're in there. Jessica just wants her sister to acknowledge her. She's dying. My phone rang. Mom? I declined. It rang again immediately. Dad declined. Then an unknown number. Then another. Turn off your phone, Alex said. All of you turn them off. As we powered down our devices, Victoria Victoria gasped. Oh my God! Look, outside. Jessica was being loaded into the ambulance, but just before they closed the doors, she turned toward the building. Even from this distance, I could see her smirk. The pounding on the door intensified. More voices joined in. I recognized some as distant relatives. They were all shouting about cruelty, about family, about Jessica's final wishes. The photographer, Vicky whispered suddenly. Jessica brought her own photographer. He was wearing a catering uniform. I saw him in the kitchen earlier. My blood ran cold. She's been here for hours. At least 2, Vicky confirmed. Thought he was with the venue. Everything clicked into place. The dramatic collapse, the perfect timing with arriving guests, the news van that appeared so quickly. Jessica had orchestrated every detail. The ceremony is supposed to start in 25 minutes, McJonathan said. What do we do? Through the window, I watched the ambulance pull away. The crowd was dispersing, but many were heading into the venue. Our guests were about to walk into Jessica's carefully crafted narrative. We stick to the plan, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. Jessica wants to be the victim. Let her, but she's not ruining this wedding. But the guests, Victoria started, will see the truth eventually. I stood up, smoothing my dress. Right now, we have a wedding to save. The pounding on the door had stopped, but we could hear heated discussions in the hallway. Alex's family arguing with Jessica's supporters, the wedding coordinator trying to maintain order. I looked at my bridesmaids, then at Alec. Ready? He squeezed my bandaged hands gently, always. We began moving the furniture away from the door. Whatever Jessica had planned, whatever scene she'd created, we were going to walk out there with our heads high. The show, as they say, must go on. We pushed open the door to find the hallway packed with wedding guests divided into 2 distinct camps. Alex's family stood on one side, his mother's face flushed with anger as she confronted a group of women in pink ribbons. On the other side, Jessica's cancer support group friends were showing videos on their phones to anyone who would watch. The wedding coordinator rushed over, her professional composure cracking. The ceremony was supposed to start 12 minutes ago. Half your guests are demanding we call the police on Jessica for trespassing. The other half are threatening to leave if you don't apologize to her. Through the crowd, I spotted Alex's father near the venue manager's office. He caught my eye and subtly held up a folder. The contracts proving Jessica was banned. At least we had that. Start the ceremony, I told the coordinator. Whoever stays. Stays. We made our way through the crowd, ignoring the whispers and pointed fingers. In the main hall, barely 65 of our 205 invited guests remained. Empty chairs gaped like missing teeth. Alex's grandmother sat in the front row, her jaw set with determination. My cousins, who'd celebrated our engagement, were notably absent. The officiant looked nervous as we took our positions. Behind us, the doors kept opening and closing as more people left. Someone's phone rang. Jessica's name mentioned loudly before they hurried out. Dearly beloved, the officiant began, his voice barely audible over the murmuring. That's when the doors burst open. A woman from the cancer support group ran in, phone held high. She's coding. Jessica's coding in the ambulance. They're rushing her to emergency surgery. The remaining guests erupted. Alex's aunt stood up. This is cursed. I'm not staying for this. She gathered her family and left. Others followed. By the time the chaos settled, we had 20 guests left. The photographer Jessica had planted was openly filming from the back corner, not even pretending to hide anymore. Should we? The officiant gestured helplessly. Continue, Alex said firmly. We exchanged vows in front of mostly empty chairs, our voices echoing in the space meant for hundreds. Every word felt hollow, every promise overshadowed by the spectacle outside. When Alec kissed me, I tasted salt. I hadn't realized I was crying. The reception was a ghost town. The catering staff outnumbered the guests. The band played to an empty dance floor. Alex's father pulled us aside during what should have been cocktail hour. I called the hospital, he said quietly. Jessica never arrived. The ambulance took her to the parking lot of a shopping center where she got out and left in your parent car. The EMTs are filing a report for misuse of emergency services. My phone turned back on for emergencies exploded with notifications. The video of me hiding in the garden while my dying sister collapsed had over 15.5 views. The comments were brutal. Death threats, promises to ruin my life. My workplace tagged with demands I be fired. We should leave, Alex said, reading over my shoulder. But where could we go? The honeymoon suite we'd booked was at the same hotel where Jessica's supporters were probably waiting. Home meant facing neighbors who'd seen the videos. We ended up at a roadside motel an hour away, still in our wedding clothes. The clerk recognized us from the viral video, but said nothing, just slid the key across with a pitying look. That night, instead of celebrating our marriage, we sat on a lumpy bed, strategizing. Alex's father texted updates. Jessica had posted a hospital selfie, claiming she'd been stabilized after emergency treatment. The medical equipment in the background was from a different hospital's website, but her followers didn't care about facts. I have to go to work Monday, I said. What if they've seen the videos? We'll deal with it, Alec promised, but his voice lacked conviction. Monday came too quickly. I arrived at the office to find HR waiting in the lobby. The videos had indeed made their way to corporate, while they couldn't fire me for a personal matter. They suggested I take unpaid leave until things calmed down. My boss avoided eye contact as security escorted me to clean clean out my desk. The parking lot felt like a mile long. Jessica's photographer was there capturing my walk of shame with professional camera. He didn't even pretend to hide. At home, an eviction notice was taped to our door. The landlord's daughter had shown him the videos. He didn't want that kind of drama in his building. We had 35 days. Alec came home to find me surrounded by boxes. His own day hadn't been better. 3 clients had called to cancel contracts, citing concerns about his judgment. His company was supportive for now, but we both knew that could change. The next morning, Jessica escalated. She posted a video from a chemotherapy treatment center, IV in her arm, sobbing about how she was facing death alone because her sister chose cruelty. The IV bag was filled with saline. I could see the label if I zoomed in, but the 1,000 comments were all prayers and outrage. My parents called from a blocked number. Mom's voice was ice. You have one chance to make this right. Apologize publicly. Admit what you did. Support your sister through her treatment. She's not sick. I screamed. The doctors say otherwise. Mom replied, Dr. Morrison confirmed her diagnosis yesterday. Dr. Morrison. I Googled him. License revoked 7 years ago for insurance fraud. Now operating a cash-only wellness clinic. Of course, Alex's father did more digging. Jessica had found a network of disgraced medical professionals who would confirm any diagnosis for the right price. She was getting real chemotherapy substances, selling most online, taking just enough to show side effects. The weight loss, the hair falling out, it was all calculated, but proving it was another matter. The police officer we spoke to barely looked at our evidence. His daughter had shared Jessica's videos. In his mind, we were heartless monsters persecuting a dying woman. Jessica's next move was brilliant in its cruelty. She started a GoFundMe for her medical expenses, sharing how her family had abandoned her. Within 0 days, she'd raised $35.5. The comment section became a hub for people sharing their own cancer stories, praising Jessica's bravery, cursing my name. Then came the lawsuit, emotional distress, defamation, theft of wedding deposits. Jessica's lawyer, the same one I'd consulted last year about family issues, sent a demand for $205.5. The wedding venue was suing us separately for damage to their reputation. We couldn't afford a lawyer. The few who would see us wanted massive retainers after Googling our names. One literally showed us the door when he realized who we were. Alex's mother called crying. Her book club had kicked her out. 45 years of friendship ended because she'd raised a son who would enable abuse of a cancer patient. His father's hospital suspension became official when Jessica filed a formal complaint to the medical board. The eviction deadline loomed. We looked at apartment after apartment, but landlords either recognized us or found the videos during background checks. We ended up in Alex's cousin's basement, the only family member still speaking to us. Jessica kept pressure constant. She attended Alex's church, weeping through the service, posted photos from my favorite coffee shop, lamenting how she used to go there with her sister. She even enrolled in the art class I'd been taking, forcing me to drop out or face her weekly. The breaking point came when Jessica targeted my best friend from college. Sarah had been my rock, the only person besides Alex's family who believed me. Jessica befriended Sarah's mother through Facebook, sharing her story. Within a week, Sarah was begging me to just apologize and move on. She's dying, Sarah said over coffee, her eyes red. My mom saw her at the cancer center. She could barely walk. I showed her the evidence, fake doctor, the medicine sales, the security footage of Jessica walking normally. Sarah pushed it away. Even if some of it's exaggerated, she's still your sister and she's still sick. When I wouldn't budge, Sarah left. Our 12-year friendship ended with her blocking my number. That night, I found myself parked outside my parents' house. The yellow ribbons were everywhere on trees, mailboxes, even the stop sign. Team Jessica signs dotted every lawn. My childhood home had become a shrine to a lie. Dad came out, saw my car, and just stood there. For a moment, I thought he might wave me in. Instead, he pulled out his phone, and I knew he was calling Jessica. I drove away as neighbors emerged from their houses, phones in hand. The next morning brought a new horror. Jessica had given an interview to a popular podcast about surviving cancer while facing family betrayal. 0 million downloads in the first day. Clips went viral on every platform. My face, edited to look sinister, became a meme about toxic family members. Alec lost his job that afternoon. His company cited restructuring, but we knew the truth. The clients who'd canceled had threatened to go public about working with an abuser's enabler. We sat in the cousin's basement surrounded by boxes we couldn't afford to unpack anywhere else and faced the truth. Jessica was winning. She'd destroyed our wedding, our careers, our relationships, our future, and she was just getting started. Maybe we should leave, Alex said quietly. Start over somewhere new, but even that felt impossible. Jessica's campaign had gone national. My name was poison anywhere with internet access, and we couldn't afford to relocate anyway. The wedding we'd never really had drained our savings, and the legal bills were mounting. That's when Alex's father called with news that changed everything. A real cancer patient from Jessica's support group had reached out to him. She'd been documenting Jessica's lies for months, suspicious of how Jessica's symptoms never quite matched reality. She had recordings, screenshots, everything. Her name is Monica. Monica, he said. She's willing to go public, but she's scared. Jessica's supporters can be intense. We met Monica at a diner 2 towns over. She was everything Jessica pretended to be. Genuinely sick, genuinely brave, genuinely kind. Her head was baldled from real chemotherapy, her arms bruised from real IVs. She studied me, Monica said, sliding a folder across the table, asked detailed questions about my treatments, my reactions, my schedule. Thought she was being supportive. Then I saw her repeating my exact stories online, word for word. Folder was full of evidence. Screenshots of Jessica asking specific medical questions, photos of Jessica at Cancer Center on days Monica knew there were no treatments scheduled, even a recording of Jessica practicing her chemo reaction in a bathroom stall. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Alec asked gently. Monica's laugh was bitter. Who believes the real cancer patient over the one with 0 million podcast downloads? Besides, I've been a little busy actually fighting cancer. We spent hours going through everything. Monica had been building this case for months, waiting for the right moment. She'd even found other patients Jessica had studied and exploited. There are 5 of us willing to speak up, Monica said, but we need someone to listen. The local news that had ambushed me in the parking lot wouldn't return our calls. The podcast that featured Jessica laughed at us. Even social media platforms refused to take down Jessica's content, citing no violation of community guidelines. But Monica was smarter than us. She'd been recording Jessica at the Cancer Center with hidden cameras. The footage was damning Jessica, walking normally in stairwells, chatting happily on the phone about her GoFundMe success, even joking with the disgraced doctor about fooling everyone. Question is, Monica said, what do we do with it? We were strategizing our next move when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was the hospital administrator. There had been an incident. Jessica had come in for her fake treatment, but something had gone wrong. She'd had a severe allergic reaction to something. They weren't sure what. She was in the ICU, and it was serious. She's asking for you, the administrator said. She says she needs to tell you something important. It felt like a trap. Everything with Jessica was calculated, planned, performed, but the administrator assured us this was real. He'd seen the medical charts himself. We drove to the hospital in silence. Part of me wondered if this was Jessica's ultimate manipulation, actually making herself sick to prove she'd been telling the truth all along. The ICU was quiet, except for the beeping of machines. Through the glass, I could see Jessica hooked up to real equipment this time. Her face was swollen beyond recognition. The nurse confirmed it. Whatever she'd taken had triggered a massive allergic reaction. They'd barely save her. She can't talk, the nurse explained, but she's conscious. She keeps gesturing for paper and pen. I stood outside that room for what felt like hours. Alec held my hand. Monica had come to along with Alex's parents. We all waited, unsure what Jessica could possibly have to say now. Finally, I went in. Jessica's eyes tracked my movement. Up close, I could see the fear in them. Real fear, not the performed kind. She gestured weakly for the paper. Her handwriting was shaky, but the words were clear. I'm sorry. I stared at those 2 words, waiting for the catch, the manipulation, twist. But Jessica just lay there, tears rolling down her swollen cheeks. She wrote again, the money. Go fund me. It's yours. All of it. I don't want your money. I said more writing. Please let me fix this. The nurse came in checking monitors. She needs rest, she said gently. As I turned to leave, Jessica grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. She scribbled one more note. Check my laptop. Password is your birthday. Everything is there. Outside, the others were waiting. I told them what happened, showed them the notes. Monica was skeptical. It's another trick, she said. Has to be. But something felt different. The fear in Jessica's eyes had been real. Whatever had happened, whatever she'd taken, it had scared her in a way all our evidence and threats never had. We went to my parents' house. They weren't home, probably at the hospital with Jessica. Using the spare key I still had, we found Jessica's laptop in her room. The password worked, and what we found changed everything. Folders within folders of plans, scripts for her performances, schedules of when to post for maximum engagement, contact lists for the disgraced doctors, financial records showing the medicine sales, and a document titled Exit Strategy. She'd been planning to fake her own death, make it look like the stress from my cruelty had caused her cancer to worsen. There were drafted sewers notes blaming me, insurance policies she'd tricked our parents into buying, even a plan to frame me for poisoning her. My God, Alex's father breathed. She was going to destroy you completely. Monica finished and cash out in the process. But something had gone wrong. In trying to make herself sick enough to be convincing she'd miscalculated, the allergic reaction was real, severe, and completely unplanned. We copied everything. Every file, every document, every piece of evidence. Monica uploaded it all to a secure cloud server. We finally had what we needed to expose the truth. But as we sat in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by proof of my sister's elaborate deception, I felt no victory. Just exhaustion and a strange sense of pity for Jessica, lying in that hospital bed, her own schemes having nearly called her. What do we do now? Alec asked. I looked at the laptop screen at the dozens of files documenting months of calculated cruelty. Then, I thought about Jessica's scribbled apology. The fear fear in her eyes, the way she'd gripped my wrist. We wait, I said. We see if she meant it. The others exchanged glances. They thought I was naive, maybe even stupid, but something had shifted in that hospital room. For the first time in months, maybe years, I'd seen my actual sister. Not performance, not the manipulation, just the frightened woman who'd almost died from her own lies. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Jessica's nurse. She's asking for you again. She says it's urgent." I rushed back to the hospital, my mind racing. The nurse met me at the ICU entrance, her expression grave. She's been writing frantically. We tried to calm her, but she insists it's life or death. Through the glass, Jessica was propped up, scribbling on a notepad despite her swollen fingers. The moment she saw me, she waved me in desperately. She shoved the notepad at me. "Police coming. Mom called them. Says you broke in and stole evidence. They're getting warrant." My blood froze. Of course, while we'd been at their house, they'd been setting another trap. Jessica wrote more. "Dad has fake sewer slide note from me, your handwriting. Monica's name in it." I grabbed my phone and called. "Alec." He answered on the first ring. "Get Monica somewhere safe. Now don't go back to the cousin's place." Jessica was still writing. "Laptop has keylogger. They know you have files. Dad's friend is Judge." The pieces clicked together. Even dying, Jessica had been part of one final manipulation, but something in her eyes had changed. She wrote again. "Go to Channel 11. Ask for Patricia Kim, real reporter. She investigated. Dr. Morrison before a nurse appeared. There are officers here asking about you." I slipped out through the emergency stairwell, texting Alec as I ran. We needed to move fast. In the parking garage, I nearly collided with Monica. She was breathing hard, clutching her bag with the evidence. "Alex is getting the car." She gasped. "Your mom just posted that you attacked Jessica in the ICU." We heard sirens approaching multiple units. Alex screeched up in his car, and we dove in. As we pulled out, 3 police cars passed us heading in. "Channel 11, I said. "Jessica gave us a name." Alex's father called. "Don't go home. Your parents are there with officers. They're claiming you poisoned Jessica to steal her medical records." We drove in tense silence, Monica checking her mirrors constantly. The news station's building appeared ahead. "Patricia Kim?" I prayed Jessica hadn't sent us into another trap. The security desk called up. Patricia came down herself, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes. "You're the wedding sister. I've been following this story." "We have evidence," Monica said, pulling out her folder. Patricia's eyes widened as she flipped through. "This is comprehensive. Come upstairs quickly." In her office, we laid out everything. The fake prescriptions, the GoFundMe fraud, the planned fake death. Patricia made calls while reviewing documents, her expression darkening with each page. "Dr. Morrison," she said, "I exposed him 7 years ago. He's supposed to be in jail." She showed us her old investigation. He'd been released early and was operating under a slightly different name. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, but Patricia gestured for me to answer and put it on speaker. "This is Officer Davis. We have a warrant for your arrest. Your sister is in critical condition, and evidence suggests you administered something to trigger her reaction." Patricia grabbed the phone. "This is Patricia Kim, Channel 11 News. I'm sitting with your suspect right now, looking at evidence of an extensive fraud scheme. You might want to reconsider your approach." Silence then. "Ma'am, we have a signed complaint and a judge's warrant based on falsified medical records from a convicted fraudster." Patricia shot back. "I'm going live in 25 minutes. Your choice how this plays out." She hung up and turned to her computer. "We're doing this now. Monica, are you ready to go on camera?" Monica nodded, though her hands shook. Patricia's team set. Up with lightning speed. Within minutes, we were in the studio. Patricia didn't waste time with pleasantries. Tonight, a Channel 11 investigation reveals a shocking fraud scheme involving fake cancer diagnoses, forged medical records, and a family torn apart by lies. The evidence appeared on screen. Jessica's planning documents, the fake prescriptions, the GoFundMe page. Monica spoke clearly about how Jessica had studied real cancer patients to perfect her performance. My phone exploded with notifications. The live stream viewer count climbed rapidly. Patricia's team had prepared graphics showing the money trail, the disgraced doctors, the timeline of lies. "We're now going to the hospital where Jessica is currently being treated," Patricia announced. "Not for cancer, but for an allergic reaction caused by illegally obtained chemotherapy substances." The broadcast cut to a reporter outside the hospital. Behind him, chaos erupted. My parents were being escorted out by security. Mom was screaming about lawsuits and lies. Dad looked stunned, like he'd aged 15 years in 15 minutes. Patricia's phone rang. She listened, then smiled grimly. "The police are reconsidering their warrant. Apparently the judge who signed it is Dr. Morrison's golf buddy." More breaking news. The GoFundMe had been frozen. $35.5 in donations locked pending investigation. The comment section had turned into a battlefield as Jessica's supporters watched their narrative crumble. Alex's phone rang. His father's voice was shaky with relief. The hospital board called an emergency meeting. "They're reviewing my suspension." The administrator saw the broadcast. Through the studio windows, we could see police cars arriving. Not for us this time. Patricia's investigation had triggered something bigger. Officers entered with federal badges. The fraud had crossed state lines headlines with online prescription sales. Monica's phone buzzed with texts from the other cancer patients. Jessica had studied. They were ready to speak up. The real support group was mobilizing, not as Jessica's army, but as witnesses to her deception. Patricia received a call during commercial break. Her expression changed. "Jessica's asking for you again. She says she'll confess everything on camera. If you'll come." We rushed back to the hospital, now surrounded by news vans. The ICU was locked down, but Patricia's presence got us through. Jessica was conscious, her swelling reduced. She looked at me with exhausted eyes and nodded. The cameras rolled. Jessica's confession was halting, but complete. The fake diagnosis, the studied symptoms, the plan to fake her death and frame me. She named every disgraced doctor, every enabler, every scheme. When she finished, she looked directly at me. "I'm sorry," she said aloud this time, her voice. "I wanted to be special, to be the center of attention. I didn't care who I hurt." The federal agents took her statement. Charges would be filed. Fraud, theft, conspiracy. My parents, watching from the hallway, looked broken. The life they'd built around Jessica's lies had collapsed in hours. As we left the hospital, the sunrise painted the sky pink. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving bone-deep exhaustion. Alec held my hand as we walked past the news vans, past the gawkers with their phones, past the remnants of Jessica's carefully constructed victim narrative. Patricia's final broadcast that morning showed the aftermath. Jessica under arrest guard in her hospital bed, Dr. Morrison in handcuffs, the GoFundMe donors being notified of the fraud, my parents leaving their house with boxes, the yellow ribbons, already being taken down by neighbors. 11 months later, I sat in a small apartment across town watching Jessica's sentencing on my laptop. 3 years for fraud, 2 suspended. She'd served 23 months.